Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the very first edition of the Swerve on the Realm Network. And yes, we're going to continue to call this show the Swerve because the WWE recently added a show on their channel called Swerved. Where they got that from, I have absolutely no idea. You know, the funny thing was, I'm going to tell you a little story before I kick off the show here. But I was talking to somebody at the WWE a couple of months ago, and he basically told me that they were kicking around my name to host the show. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure they were kicking it around amongst themselves, maybe over at the TV studio, the people that like me over there. Vince McMahon wasn't kicking it around. I can guarantee you that. But, you know, he said they were kicking around a show for me to host on the network. And obviously, you know, it never came to fruition. But then I see they got this show called The Swerve. And I could only wonder, was that the show that they were talking about? But either way, they could be called their show The Swerved. My show is Swerve, and that's never going to change because I came up with it first. So anyway, I'm very proud here to be on the Realm Network and continue the tradition of the Swerve. And basically how you know this works, I usually have a little rant at the beginning. Then I usually bring on my special guest that I fuss and I fawn over, especially tonight's guest. There'll be a lot of fussing and fawning, I'll tell you that right now. Then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of our interview. Then I'll usually wrap it up at the end. Usually what we learned from the interview and usually plugging something that's going to come tomorrow. But, again, I want to thank Realm Network for making this all possible. I want to thank all of you for coming back to the brand and being patient in my absence. I'm thrilled to death that you've all come back. Now, listen, I want to talk about a topic here that I'm very concerned about. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little concerned about this. It's been on my mind for some time, and it was about a week ago where I did an interview with my senior correspondent, Jeff Lane, and he threw some facts at me that were very, very disturbing to me at the time. But now putting all this together, there's a little bit of concern what I'm looking at. And this is where my guest comes in tonight, because obviously she's a professional in the field and she's going to have a lot of insight into some of the things that I want to talk about. But what my concern is, listen, I've always made this public, and I've always said this. I've never agreed with the way that women get treated in professional wrestling. I never did. I didn't like it when I was there. Honestly, in any of the companies I really worked for, I always felt that the women were treated like second-class citizens. And then, the thing that really concerns me is, once their career is over, then what? I know how difficult it is for male wrestlers in the business to find jobs and find employment. A lot of them, work the independent circuit well beyond their years when they really shouldn't be for physical purposes, autograph signings, conventions, and things like that. But, the average wrestler, he can probably go into his mid-50s to 60s, still doing that and making a good income. It's a little different with the females because in the research that Jeff Lane did, he basically found that the shelf life of a WWE diva or a woman in wrestling is somewhere around 30 years old. 30 years old, then basically it's time to go out with the old and in with the new. And what really concerns me about this is especially, I look at that Divas show, which I will say I am a big fan of. I've always been a fan of Divas. I think that's a real good show. I enjoy all the girls on the show, but here's my concern with that. I think with a lot of these girls on Total Divas, I think at a very young age, they might be hitting the pinnacle of their career, being on a successful show, 2 successful shows, Raw on a USA and then the E Network with Total Divas. These girls are in the limelight. They're getting paid a lot of money. They're in the moment. They're enjoying life, and rightfully so. Every one of them are there because they deserve it. I take absolutely nothing away from them. But what concerns me is, once they hit that number of about the big 3-0, that kind of seems to be the tailing off for a woman in professional wrestling. Then what? We all know that on many occasions, Vince McMahon doesn't continue to let performers use their names that they took away from the WWE. That's not just women. That's men as well. And, listen, that's done for business reasons. I can understand that. But, all of a sudden, you've got a young girl, 28, 30 years old, that was on top at the WWE, and then they were on top at Total Divas. Then all of a sudden they're being replaced on Divas. The new girls coming in at the WWE. Then what? That's my concern. Getting that taste of stardom at such a young age, at that height, that might never be repeated for them for the rest of their career, is something I really want to discuss, with our next guest. Like I said, it's a little different with the males than it is the females, because the men can wrestle in the ring till they're 40, sometimes 45 years old. They surely can do independent still after 45, maybe 45 to 50. Some older still do independence. But let's face it, the girls, a lot of it is based on their youthfulness. A lot of it is based on their good looks. A lot of it is based on, their beauty, staying in shape. That's how the girls are looked at in the wrestling business. And that's why there is the quicker turnover, when it comes to, okay, it's, time to move on from this talent and go on to the next one. So I'm going to talk in length to my next guest about this, who maybe experienced that, throughout her career. She had a good long-running career. She calls herself one of the original divas, and I don't dispute that whatsoever. The fact of the matter is, I never really looked at her as a diva. And I guess that's because, she was, and I hate to use this word, as well, but she was a valet. So she was more or less, on the arm of a WWE talent. So she wasn't that diva in that center spotlight like a Sunny was, or like a Sable was after she broke away from Mark Maris. She always had her partner in crime, who just so happened to be her life partner as well. And obviously, if you get the picture now, I'm talking about Terri Runnels, Marlena, and her husband, Dustin Runnels, Goldust. Listen, I was in the wrestling business, and I'm still in the wrestling business to some extent for 23 years. And I'm hard-pressed to come up with two better characters and two better gimmicks than Goldust and Marlena. But here was the thing about them. Nobody else could have played these roles. It's that simple. All the credit goes to the performers as far as them pulling off the believability of these characters. I say this as a writer all the time. Listen, it doesn't matter if I write Shakespeare. It doesn't matter what I write. It all depends on the performance of the performer. And, these were two individuals that literally, brought these characters to life every day on Monday Night Raw. They were a big part of the Attitude Era. Marlena, Terri Runnels, and her husband, Dustin Runnels, Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, him as. And, two of the greatest people I ever had the opportunity to work for. Now, if you notice here, I'm stumbling and I'm mumbling and I'm fumbling. I'll tell you why that is. Because I got Terri Runnels ready to go. She was out of town. I think she did the convention. She just got back to do this. She's doing this interview. She's ready to go. She asked me for approximately 7 minutes to pretty up. Now, not for anything. I got to be honest with you. I haven't seen Terri live in 15 years. The minute I saw her on my screen, it looks like she hasn't aged a freaking day. And I honestly mean that. Still stunning, still beautiful as ever. So, listen, this is typical Terri. I went through this in the WWE days with her. The asking for 7 minutes to tighten up. Now we're looking at 15. Now we're looking at 20. So I got to go on now, and I got to ramble here until the princess is ready to take her seat. But, that all comes with the job. But I guarantee you this, you're not going to be disappointed when you see it. Listen, now I know what Vince Scully feels like when he calls the play-by-play of the Dodgers games by himself. There's no announcer sitting next to him. This guy's been doing this for 20 years, and he's got to go on and on and on by himself, entertain himself for 3 hours, which is basically what I'm doing here. I'm entertaining myself until Terri Runnels decides to join us on the video chat call. And, she mentioned something about putting on pajamas, doing her hair. I mean, I have no idea what she's going to grace us with, but, she looked fine with me to begin with. She looked stunning. She looked beautiful. I told her so. Now her 7 minutes is more or less turned into 14. So I have to go on and I have to, keep talking until Terri joins us. But anyway, this was life. Now you're getting a real, glimpse of life behind the scenes at any wrestling company when you're working with females. As much as I love them, as much as I adore them, as much as I cherish the ground that they walked on, this is a lot of what you got. You had to do a pre-tape here, a pre-tape there. You had to go over an in-ring with them. A million things to do. And these girls are in the makeup room, and they're getting the makeup, and they're getting the hair done over and over and over again. And I got to tell you something with these girls. The majority, the 99.9%, without any extensions, without any makeup, without anything, the girls were stunning. So they would sit in this chair for hours and hours. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what they were getting done to me. One of them actually had to smarten me up and tell me that they got hair extensions. I had no idea it wasn't their real hair. I had no problem with them going out there with no makeup, but hours and hours and hours and hours in the makeup room. And now I can see the princess. You better be in place, because I'm rambling here, waiting for your presence. I can't talk anymore. I'm blowed up and I'm sweating. Terri, are you finally there?
I'm here. I'm here in my pajamas. Is that all right with you?
Now, listen, I got to tell you something, and I'm not buttering up. I'm an old married man of 31 years. I got three kids. I don't even want to talk about them because I'll just want to jump through a window. I've seen pictures of you, obviously. I have not seen you face to face in 15 years, and you look absolutely stunning.
God bless you. Thank you. I have a mirror, and so I beg to differ, but thank you.
Terri,
Thank you.
I got to ask you, and this is a little personal, but listen, this ain't going to be a typical wrestling interview. That's
why I'm doing it.
It ain't. It's Vince and Terri having a conversation, two friends talking. But, I always look at Wikipedia anyway to see if anything jumps out. And Terri, this first question, it's a little personal, but I got to ask you this question.
Lord.
Yeah, Terri,
Lord. Listen, wait a second. Wait. Let me say this. You realize that you and I didn't even talk about, okay, we're going to talk about this. Can we talk about that? So you get what you get. So go ahead.
Yeah. Now, Terri, I got to ask you this question, and this is an absolute shoot. Okay. Terri, I'm 54 now. Okay. And Terri, it's so hard for me. Terri, I try to get on the treadmill. I try to eat the chicken. I try to do all these things. Terri, I'm 54 years old now. It's hard not to get, the little pudge around the stomach. It's almost impossible for me. The first thing that jumps out the page of me when I look at Wikipedia for you, it says 5'0", 100 freaking pounds. Terri, what is it like? Honestly, what does it feel like to weigh 100 pounds? Like, do sometimes you feel like you're not even there? I mean, what is that like?
So basically what you just said was, what's it like to be a runt? I think it's what you just said.
Well, I'm not so concerned with the height, the 100 pound. What is that like?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's all I've ever known. I mean, I was the kid that in school, I never had to be told where to stand for the group picture. I knew I was in the front or on the end, where they did the little stair steps. I knew where I was. The one cool thing I love about being little is the way it looked when the boys would toss me, throw me. I mean, I thought that came off great. That was a wonderful thing that I could contribute. No thanks to my own, I mean, thanks to God above, no thanks to me. But I think it looked so much better, when Kane or Undertaker would goozle me and, and hold me up, and China would ragdoll me. And, I just thought that looked cool and good. And I don't know. It's all I've ever known.
Well, Terri, let me ask you this, though. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely 100% about that. And forget about all that. I mean, standing next to Dustin, you made him look like a giant. And Dustin's a big guy. People don't realize that standing next to him. But, Terri, I got to ask you, and listen, you got to understand. Let me set the parameters for you. Now, I've been compared to the Oprah of podcast.
So lovely.
Yeah, I just go with the flow, whatever the question you throw me. So the first question I have to ask
wait. Then I'm going to interrupt you. And I think we need to preface this with this fact. Terri just flew in, literally, like did a Fast and Furious slide in, ran in, put on pajamas. I haven't seen my little dog who's over here trying to give me love and hug me. I'm freaking exhausted, tired. So let's just set it up that way. And so at least if I, have a brain fart, I can blame it on something.
You're gonna sit there and tell me that's what you look like, exhausted and tired, right there. That's what we get, exhausted and tired.
It's called smoke and mirrors, dude, and you know it. You've seen me without all this junk on my face,
and it wasn't so bad. But let me ask you the first question. I got to ask you this question because you opened up this question. Now, you talked about being goozled by Taker and Kane and China tossing you around like a rag doll. Terri, now I'm going to get back to your height and your weight. Did that never concern you? Because you were so fragile, and you're physically in the ring with people, some of them 3-4 times your size, doing these physical things to you?
No, I mean, here's what, maybe this is the sick part of me, but like when I would get to TVs and you or Vince would tell me what I was doing, if I was taking a huge bump from one of the boys or from China or something like that, I was in hog heaven. Tell me I'm going to wrestle one of the girls in a match, and I wanted to vomit.
Now, why is that? Explain that to us.
Babe, I don't know. I mean, I sat there with Vince begging, pleading, going, Vince, my logic to him was, when someone loves doing something and they're passionate about it, they're going to do it better than the person that is not so passionate about it. I loved the business. I loved doing what I did, which was manage. Loved it. I'll take bumps all day long. The bigger, the better. Bubba Ray through the table. Give me whatever you want to give me. But because I never went out, and the way I got in the business was not saying I want to be a pro wrestler. I'm going to go train to be a pro wrestler. I came into the business in an accidental way, and so I knew what I was good at. I knew what I was not good at. I was physical, yes. I could go out, and so you tell me what I'm doing that night, so I've got to wrestle a girl. So now I have to go in the ring and learn 3 or 4 new moves, and hopefully retain those for the next couple of hours so I can execute them quasi decently. And over the course of time, I, developed little miniature repertoire. But I mean, I give the girls and the guys so much credit for the training and the mastery of everything that they do, and it's such talent and such skill. I did not possess any of that talent and skill. I just did the damn best I could and hoped that I got a thumbs up from either of the Vinces when I came back through the curtain. And
well, you did represent that talent, Terri, because the talent was in that character as Marlena. You weren't a wrestler, and you weren't supposed to look like a wrestler, and we weren't supposed to believe you were a wrestler. Acting is involved in that, looking like the victim, looking like, you were scared to death. There is acting involved. Listen, let's not put everybody else over. Let's put you over. Let me conduct this interview. Always start putting the boys. Now, listen, I found a couple other tidbits here on Wikipedia. I want to ask you. And Terri, I've always felt this way. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know your real last name is Boatwright, correct?
Correct.
Now, Terri, how come like every time I see that name, or I think anybody sees that name, Terri Boatwright, why immediately are we thinking you're a rich kid from a rich family? Why does that name reek wealth? And was that true at all?
Not in the least. In fact, number one, I detested my last name. I thought it sounded hokey. I heard everything from ship wrong, every variation you can imagine. My father was a mail carrier. My mother was a school teacher. So wealth, silver spoon, none of the above.
Growing up, you had aspirations to be a mail carrier. Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly. I've got some stamps around here somewhere.
Terri, I disagree with you because I think that sounds like a very prestigious name. What is that? What's your nationality?
Hell if I know, dude. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of people from over across the pond, I guess. I don't know.
Once you got into wrestling,
I'm a natural redhead. My father's a redhead, so there's some kind of, Blarney Stone from somewhere over there. But my mom has like American Indian.
Are you honestly a natural redhead?
Natural redhead.
What? So why'd you get away from the red hair?
Because Vince had me go blonde.
So you were
more golden.
Well, but you were blonde in WCW when you got on camera.
Au contraire, mon frère.
You were redhead back then, huh?
You pull up an Alexander York picture right now, and you look at that lovely '80s coif that I had going on, just as red as it could be.
We got to back up here for a second because I read something very interesting. This I did not know about.
You're cracking me up, by the way.
Well, listen, you got to hang with me. There's a lot of little gems in here. I know you did makeup at CNN from 1985 to 1991. That's how you got involved with wrestling. I knew that. Right. I did not know, and I know Wikipedia is hit or miss. Wikipedia is telling me you actually worked on Larry King's makeup.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the shows I did, but that's when I went to Washington. I went to Washington for a short period of time and worked at the bureau up there, and that's where Larry King's show was taped out of. So whomever went on Larry King, whether it be prince, pauper, president, porn star, actor, whatever, sports hero, I did their makeup and I did Larry's makeup every night.
Okay, now let me hold it. Now I have some things.
That's a whole other story, by the way.
We're going to tell that story right here. This is the meat and potatoes I want. First of all, don't tell me Larry King every night didn't try to pick you up. So let me hear Larry King's. Hey, give me his pickup line. Like, what would Larry King say to you?
Here's the funny thing, and I've said this in interviews before, and it cracks me up. So I go up to Washington from Atlanta, and little Southern girl. I grew up with a mother who, everything was honest. What's honest is honorable. Do the right thing. That's how I grew up, and I assumed that everyone was that way, honest and good and forthright and whatever. So I get up there, and the very first night I am to do Larry King's makeup. Backtrack for a second. He had a producer that was a pit bull. You take Nancy Grace, Judge Judy, and a couple of other little Spitfires, stir them together, now make them almost freaking 6'2". Tammy Haddad. Tammy Haddad was one of Larry King's executive producers. Randy Douthit, the other. Randy Douthit, ironically enough, now is Judge Judy's executive producer. But I digress. So all these people are now in the control room. I go into Larry's, to the set. Larry's sitting on set now. I go in onto the set. And of course, the mic's hot. They can hear everything he's saying. And he says to me, so Terri, how do I look? Well, frickin' frackin', I didn't know that the dude had just had a heart attack, had lost like massive weight, looked like a cadaver with suspenders. I had no idea. Zero. I didn't, we didn't have Google. You couldn't do the kind of research back then that you can do now. So my little brain is going thinking, be honest, say the right thing. What I know he's, kind of doing his little flirtation with me, but I'm not going to bite. So how am I going to respond that is honest, but whatever. So me having not ever really paid attention to the dude before, seen the dude before his heart attack, my comment was, you look healthy. Now, unbeknownst to me, the entire control room is on the freaking floor. Of all the words that I could say, healthy was the last thing Larry King looked like. But I didn't know, I didn't know. So
now listen, Terri, listen, at that age, you're in your early 20s.
Early 20s.
Honestly, was he an all right guy?
Baby, let me tell you something. If I told every story from my makeup room up there with all the politicians and people that were in my private makeup room, I could have lawsuit after lawsuit and write a whole big book. But let me say this. My thing with guys who do the come on lines and, hit on women that's inappropriate, usually I handle it with grace and humor and just deflect it that way and go on about my business. Larry was pretty much the way he would do. He would come in, he would have Chinese food waiting for him. It was almost like Groundhog Day every night. He would do zero research. He would have a couple of blue cards with some research done for him by, a couple of PAs, not PAs, APs. And literally I would be doing his makeup while he's eating Chinese food. I'm having to try to circumnavigate Mugu Gaipan and get him to look quasi decent. So, he would, he would go in and just like you and I are doing this interview now, where I don't know how much prep you've done, but we haven't discussed anything that we're going to talk about ahead of time.
We wing it.
Right. And that to me is the best interview ever. And so that's why I think Larry King's interviews always came off so great. He didn't know shit about Shinola when he sat down, usually.
Terri, I'm glad you told me that, because I just learned something about the guy, because I'm like that too, and I'm glad you shared that story.
I love that.
But Terri, you got to drop some names of, who came in and out of that chair, and maybe just like little tidbits. Listen, I don't want any lawsuits or anything.
Yeah,
Neither
right.
of us can afford this, but just drop a couple names. Give me a couple little tidbits of who came in that chair.
Well, go back now. It's like early 90s, I think. I don't even remember now when I was up there. But like Oliver Stone had just won an Oscar for Born on the 4th of July. Platoon. Like literally everyone from that day and time. I mean, Bob Hope. I did Bob Hope before he passed.
But Terri, let me ask you this question now. Hold on, because I'm looking at the years. I know when you were born. I'm not going to say that, but I know we're in our early 20s. Now, Terri, you're having Bob Hope come in your chair and Oliver. Aren't you as intimidated as all hell? I mean, like, how do you start a conversation with Oliver Stone, or are you told, keep your mouth shut, don't talk to the talent?
Here's what's so great about it. Literally, I think ignorance is bliss, because I didn't know I could do anything. Mm-hmm. Zero college education, but it's the weird. I'm just a chameleon. Like, literally, sit me down at a table with a prince or a president and I'm comfortable. Sit me down on the ground with a pauper or a family in Afghanistan eating off the ground, I'm comfortable. I don't know. I want to give my mom credit, but at the same time, I literally think, the stork dropped me off in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know. But I will tell you that nobody intimidated me. I had, and I really never even thought about this, but I'm proud of myself for doing this. As young as I was, I knew that these people coming into my makeup room had a life where people wanted to get at them constantly, whether it was a politician or an actor or, a sports star or whatever. And so I just thought to myself, well, I wouldn't want to be like bombarded and picked at and pawed at constantly. So my rule that I instigated when I went up to Washington Bureau was no pictures and no autographs in my green room, in my makeup room. I just took over the damn place. That was my rule. People way ahead of me would come in trying to get pictures with people, and I said no. If you want to get a picture, you'll do it somewhere else, not on my space.
Now let me ask you this: who was the one person that came through the door and in the seat that you had to get a picture with?
There's one person that, okay, really quickly, every morning.
And listen, I want to point out something too. You asked me how long up top, and I said about an hour, and I lied to begin with. I knew it was going to be longer, but I also want to tell you, you're talking a lot, cutting into my time. So if this goes like 2-3 hours, I don't want to hear anything. So tell me about the one person.
Okay, so I would find out who was going to be on Larry's show that night, barring any, last minute news that we had to change a guest. So the only person that I ever got nervous about, like the entire day when I knew that he was on that night, I was just giddy. Tom Selleck. Oh my gosh, I had the freaking biggest crush on him. So I broke my rule, but I didn't break it for myself. I broke it for a school teacher that taught with my mom that was a huge fan of his. And I said, would you mind, I'm breaking my own rule, but would you mind to please autograph this for her? And I saved the makeup sponge for her and the Coke can that he drank out of and everything. But we would later, meet again and chat and do a polite drink together. So it was fine years later. But yeah, I was nervous.
Was he a cool dude?
Yeah, it was awesome. Such a gentleman, so wise. So he exudes just everything you think of that Tom Selleck should be is what he exudes and what he is, at least in my experience.
Now, Terri, let's get down to a couple of things here. And again, listen, I went through the career and everything. We're going to talk about a little things, but I'm whatever. Now, Terri, we parlay that into TBS, WCW, CNN. Now wrestlers are sitting in the chair. Now, Terri, this is a whole different breed, and I'm sure you picked that up right away. Now, Terri, listen, we don't need to name drop. I'm not looking for that. But Terri, how do you handle yourself being so young, being so attractive, and every freaking wrestler in the company coming in that makeup room, sitting in that makeup chair, and hitting on you? I mean, literally, how do you deal with that?
I don't know. I guess I pissed some people off because, I would find out later that, again, kind of stupid me, ignorance is bliss. I would have no idea that just because Animal or Sting or somebody was in my makeup room longer than, the next guy, that then, I would be questioned later. Are you and him, are you guys seeing each other? No, I just freaking did his makeup. No, I'm not seeing anybody. I mean, it's pretty well known that Brian and I dated, and you know, I mean, I dated a few of the boys in the very beginning, but then I learned really quickly, I don't want to mix business and pleasure. And so, you know, then Dustin and I are together, and then when Dustin leaves, I made sure, it's funny, I was just talking to one of the girls, Brooke Adams, what is it,
Tess Mocker.
Yeah. And I was just saying, you know, you guys blow my mind, because it's like all you guys date each other, like it's just like incestuous, so to speak, with, you know, everyone dating each other. But like when I divorced Dustin and I would finish at the show, I came back to my hotel room, stared at freaking walls. Ray Traylor and I, he would go to his room, call Angie, his wife. I would go to my room. I would find out what he wanted, you know, to order for room service. I know I just chased a rabbit. I have no idea what you asked me, and I'm answering something different.
Listen, you're getting
what
way ahead of us. Settle back.
Look, okay, back.
Let me handle this.
I
Terri,
might need a cup of coffee.
You're not gonna. Yeah, I'd let you get one, but then it'll be another 30 minutes. Hey, listen to me. You're not gonna believe this, Terri.
What?
I swear to you. I'm going through this Wikipedia again. Now, Terri, remember, I produced the vignettes with you and Pillman. Okay?
Yes.
Terri,
Yes.
I had no idea you used to date Pillman until I saw it on Wikipedia today.
Shut up.
I swear to God, I had no idea.
That's the reason we did the whole angle.
Yeah, I didn't know you had a formal relationship with the guy.
Then why did you write it?
I had no idea.
Why did you write that story?
I just did because it was natural. But Terri, I got to ask you this.
Are you being honest with me?
I swear to God, I had no idea you really dated Brian Pillman until I read this today. But Terri, right. I'm asking you this because I know so many people, you know, love Brian Pillman, you know, and Terri, I don't know if you remember this or not, you know, and this is my main memory of Brian. You know, listen, he was a great performer and all that. I didn't get to work with him that long, unfortunately. But Terri, I'll never forget this because you were there. You and him were driving in a car going to, you know, probably film that stuff. And I remembered he had just had, remember that horrific accident he had? I think a Jeep accident. And like his entire ankle was shattered and everything. Mm-hmm. I swear the thing I remember most about him was that guy was in so much physical pain and really trying to no-sell it. But like it was so obvious. It was almost hard for him to talk because you could see the pain the guy was in. And I'll never forget that car ride because I felt so bad for the guy. But, you know, people love Pillman. They love Pillman's legacy as somebody that, you know, had a relationship with him. What are the things that you remember most about Brian?
You know, he was very passionate. Whatever he did it like balls to the walls. And, you know, we had a really short relationship because we started dating, and he, the girl he was dating before me, he found out that she was pregnant. And so her name was Rochelle. And so I remember when he came to me and told me that, like, he was like devastated. And I just remember saying, you know, you do what you need to do, and I'll always be your friend. And because we had really not gotten so deep into the relationship yet that, you know, it was, you know, serious. So, yeah, I just remember everything he did. Boy, when he, oh my gosh. So when I say to him, you know, you go do your thing, whatever you need to do, and I'll still be your friend. I won't date you if, you know, that's the situation, but I'll be your friend. So then he would do the same thing that the other boys would do, assume that I am dating someone else or I'm talking too long to one of the boys. He would be livid. I have got some messages in the middle of the night with him being, I'm most certain, drunker than Cooter Brown, saying some things that I mean, you had to laugh. They were so crass, rude, and weird. I shan't repeat them, but I mean, but he was just like, that was him, like very intense. Whatever he did, you know, he was that little tightly wound up dynamite, and you know, it shows for him to be that size and make it to the pros and football. I mean,
yeah,
the dude had a lot of fire.
Now, Terri, let me ask you this. Okay, so we've established now, you know, you did the makeup at CNN. Larry King, you know, you used the word flirt. I used the word hit on. I think there were hints of Tom Selleck may have hit on you. I think you might have said that. I don't know. And then, you know, then all the boys, we all know that. Okay, now, Terri, come on. I've been in. Listen, I've been there, done that. I know these guys. I got to ask you this: how is Dustin Runnels the one? What is it about Dustin? All these guys are coming through the chair, the best lines that they have. What is it about Dustin? Why Dustin?
I'm not, I can't give you a perfect answer. I can tell you this, that I was dating someone before him that I fell madly in love with to the core heart. And I broke that relationship off for a good reason. Dustin, and I didn't, I mean, it was nothing that was thought through. Like, I didn't say, okay, this is why I'm going to date this guy. It was nothing like that. Going back and looking at it, I think subconsciously, Dustin was a younger version of this person. And like, I remember thinking Dustin was just this little punk. I mean, I was in the business before Dustin was, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm there, and all of a sudden, one weekend, some punk kid with bleach blonde hair comes whipping through. And again, when I say punk, he was a punk. And, you know, you'd see his little red Jeep Comanche truck at the booby bars, and you know, he was a little punk. And so we were in Phoenix, Arizona for a pay-per-view. Janie Engel, Dusty Rhodes, myself, I forget who else was on the patio. We were out there, sunset, beautiful mountains in the background. We're having a drink. Dustin gets out of a cab. He had been playing golf with, I don't know who all he had been playing golf with. He gets out of the cab, and it's kind of like all of a sudden, I was like, oh, this weird kind of like, I kind of want to talk to him tonight thing. He goes to dinner with us. And then we were all in this big van going to dinner. Then he was going to jump out and go with the boys, I'm sure, to do nothing that was good. And I just said to him, I said, no, you're staying with me the rest of the night. You're with me. And so we went back to the bar, and we drank and we talked. The first and only time I have ever had tequila to this day. I got very sauced. He was a gentleman, got me to my room, put me in my bed, left, went to his room. The next morning, I think I called and asked him for toothpaste, or he asked me for there was some exchange of toothpaste. So he came to my room. We, you know, hello, good morning. We went and did the pay-per-view that day. We're flying home. He asked me, no, he sends me a note from his seat on the plane. He writes me a note, you know, can I take you out to lunch? And like a ninny, I don't know why I said this, I'm like, you have to call me and ask me out. You can't like pass me a note on a plane. You have to call me. Like, what a jerk I was, right? And so, so he calls me and he asked me to lunch, and we went to lunch that day. Right after I got off of work at CNN that day, we go to lunch. He asked me out for dinner that night. We went to dinner. He asked me out for lunch the next day. We went to lunch, dinner, and then pretty much the rest is history.
Now, Terri, let me ask you this before we get to obviously, you know, the marriage and the WWE and Goldust and Marlena and all that. Now, you know, Dustin's working at WCW. You're still doing makeup there, correct?
I'm doing both jobs.
Okay, how do things change for you now that you're dating one of the boys? Does anything change? How does it change?
Oh, it changes real big. I had a very dear friend by the name of Stan Kasten. Stan Kasten was the very first man that was ever a president, vice president, and general manager of 3 professional sports teams at once: Atlanta Braves, Atlanta Hawks, Atlanta Thrashers. Stanley and I were very tight. We had nothing outside of a very, very tight friendship relationship.
You could have married Stan Katzen, and you married.
It's not Katzen, it's Kasten.
You could have married him, and we married a wrestler. We could have been set.
Right, you and me for the rest of our lives, right? No, we weren't. No, he was a married man.
Okay,
it was not like that.
All right.
But because once again, I guess you're just not supposed to talk to someone for too long, or an assumption is made. So because of Stan's very high position, which Ted Turner had given him, and because the powers that be at WCW, which now Dusty has gone into power at WCW, and now the talk is I am having an affair with Stan Kasten. So Dustin and I go back to Dustin and I. Dustin and I keep our relationship on the down low for a while. We are, he wants me to meet his mom and his family.
Let me stop you right there. I'm the Oprah. I'm the Oprah. Okay. Why keep it on the down low and not go public?
Well, first of all, because, Dustin is brand spanking new. He's a rookie. I'm makeup artist and Alexandra York. My own thing was, I don't know if this is going to last, how long it's going to last. I didn't want to go out and go, hey everybody, we're seeing each other. Just wanted you to know. I mean, it was just in the beginning phases, and I just don't think that's appropriate. Okay. So that's kind of why, and plus, Dustin at the time, I think, was scared to death of his dad and of the boys, and anything. Okay. So anyway, now remember, I'm old and I can get off the track easily, and you've just made my train derail.
No, we were just doing the Stan Katzen thing and how this relates to Dustin.
All right, so Dustin wants to take me home to Texas to meet his mom and his sister and everyone. So we fly into Austin. We have a great time. It's wonderful. We're on cloud freaking 9. And we're now on the day we're flying back. And we're in the airport in Austin to come back to Atlanta. And I think I hear Dustin's name over the loudspeaker. And I'm like, shh, listen, I think that somebody's paging you. And indeed, he was being paged. So Dustin leaves me. He goes to take a phone call. He comes back, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Don't talk to me." Huh? Like whack me over the head. What the hell are you talking about? Don't talk to you. And he's like, just don't even talk to me. So I finally find out who has paged him and called him in the airport. It's his father. His father has called him to tell him to get away from me because I'm having an affair with Stan Kasten. I'm a gold digger. All I want is his money, and to run. Meanwhile, wait. Meanwhile, go ahead.
He literally had him paged at an airport to tell him this?
On my child's life.
Crazy. Okay. All right, go ahead.
And so I spent pretty much the entire flight with my face to the window so no one could see me sobbing. Cried the entire way back. And so it was just, it blew my mind. First of all, I knew I wasn't having an affair with Stan Cast, and second of all, I had property downtown Atlanta that I had purchased, busting my ass, working freaking almost around the clock. I didn't owe anybody a dime. I had a hefty savings account. I was in good shape. I didn't need anybody's money. Meanwhile, Dustin owns nothing, hadn't paid taxes. I mean, you know, you get the picture.
Yeah, and you forgot to mention in there, if you wanted to, you probably could have married Larry King if you were a gold digger. Go ahead.
So you know, it blew my mind that this is what his dad was telling him. So that's the beginning of mine and Dusty's relationship going way left and way south. And like, I couldn't even understand it. I loved his son. I was taking care of his son. I was helping his son. You know, I mean, I was doing everything that any parent who loved his kid would say, oh my God, my son's lucky. He's got this woman who cares this much for him.
Did you did you ever confront Dusty?
Oh Lord, yeah. And so, you know, and remember, you know, back then, Dusty is still Bull of the Woods. He's got the pencil. He is booker, executive producer. He's top dog at WCW. So I dealt with it for a while. I knew Dustin loved me, but then he would go and it would be this horrible pull betwixt his dad and myself, where it's like, you know, if I'm a good son, I can't love you, but I love you, but I'm going against my dad if I love you. And it was crazy. It was crazy. Anyway, so, you know, it all blew up one night with Dusty, where I forget exactly what he said to me. It was at Center Stage in Atlanta. You know, we're doing TV tapings, and I forget exactly. Honestly, I don't remember exactly what was said, but basically I looked at him and I said, I'm not doing that. And I said, in fact, I'm not doing any of it. Goodbye. And I left TVs. I walked out right then and there, and that was the end of Alexandra York. So she never got played out, and we will never know what happened to her.
Well, now, but did that situation, did that lead to Dustin's leaving WCW as well? Eventually, did that have anything to do with it?
No, not at all. And in fact, you know, it was strained relations for a long time until I was pregnant with Dakota. And then when Dakota was born, you know, everybody, you know, comes back together, and you know, and let me say this, and I never speak this candidly about Dusty, and I've spent my entire career saying almost everything positive about Dustin and Dusty. Dusty is an incredible performer. Still to this day blows my mind, his talent, his ability. And he is a wonderful grandfather. He stepped up to the plate, and he's done so many things that are wonderful now. So all of that hurt that was there, you know, has since been erased, and it's all good. And I appreciate him for what he does for my child, for being, you know, pops and grandma. I could not ask for a better grandma. Oh my God, she's amazing. So all of that, I don't want to sit here and paint a picture of how it used to be, you know, 22, 23 years ago, because so much water under the bridge, you know?
Yeah, understand.
But that's how it was. And because Dustin was, again, very young and new, and the boys could play with his emotions. Oh Lord, could they play with him? And you know, and he let them know where his goat was tied, and they would get his goat every time. You know, of course, fast forward now, and he's, you know.
So Terri, you leave and you're unemployed at this time?
I leave. I continue to do makeup for a while longer.
Okay.
And I forget if, no, and then I just decided, you know, I'm spent. I was working ridiculous hours to the point where I went blind in one eye one night. And just I was just exhausted. So I leave CNN. I'm now doing nothing, being a housewife basically. I get pregnant. We have Dakota, and I'll stop there because I don't want to take your interview away from you.
Well, yeah, because Terri, I don't want to go like through. I got specific questions.
I'm with you.
We go to WWE. He starts his goal. There's not Marlena right away. I know Marlena is there shortly thereafter. The first question I want to ask is:
wait, do you want to know why he left WCW?
Yes, even though this interview is about you, but tell me.
Because the whole AIDS scare had happened, and no more gigging, because everyone's freaked out about it. Well, in that day and age, you did whatever the agent told you to do. Dustin and I think Blacktop Bully, what was his name? Barry Darso. What was his gimmick back then?
Blacktop Bully, wasn't it?
Bully. Okay, I think. Anyway, they had this really amazing match where, helicopters, they were doing the match in the back of a semi truck.
I remember that truck. I remember that. I
that match.
Remember that match. Yeah. So Dustin bladed and he got fired.
Oh my God. So they're out in the field on location to do this thing. There's no Eric Bischoff. There's no, immediate top pinnacle there to say, yes, blade, don't blade. So what does the wrestler do? He listens to his agent, right? Agent told him to blade. He blades, gets fired.
Wow. See, I never knew that. I never knew that before.
It was really wrong. I mean, they did him wrong.
Okay, now talk to me about Marlena. First of all, whose idea was it?
Me and me alone. Me.
Now was the pitch to Dustin first, and then Dustin pitched to Vince? Was it you directly to Vince?
I've told this story a million times, but maybe you haven't heard it. I'll tell you.
I have not heard it.
You've never heard it. Okay. So I am laying in our tanning bed in our basement in Atlanta, Georgia. Dustin's on the road. My sister collected Barbie dolls. There was a Barbie doll that was done by a designer named Bob Mackey. Bob Mackey did all of Cher's dresses and costumes. Very elaborate, very over the top, very wow. This Barbie doll was called the Sun Goddess. It was all gold. So I see this at my sister's house. My brain starts turning. I'm laying in the tanning bed. I'm thinking, what does WWF have now and what don't they have? They've got Sensational Sherry, Scary Sherry. They've got Tammy Sitch. Tammy Sitch was, cheerleader Body Donna's. Sensational Sherry was Sensational Sherry. And I'm like, they don't really have any elegant, just beautiful females. And I shouldn't even say beautiful because I don't consider myself beautiful, but they don't have just a female that is just kind of like down the middle female, if that makes sense. So I'm laying there in the tanning bed and I'm thinking, okay, Dustin's character is this. I start thinking old Hollywood, and I'm thinking glamour, that old Hollywood glamour, the way they used to dress up to go to the Oscars. They wore the long gloves. It was a production. And so I come up with this whole gimmick of my character. So I call Dustin. I actually open the tanning bed. I'm sitting on the tanning bed. I call him. I'm like, Dustin, I've got this great idea. What do you think about it? He's like, I love it. Call Vince. I said, me call Vince? I don't even know Vince. You call Vince. And he goes, no, if you want to do this, you call Vince. Well, the little shit, he was just scared to do anything with Vince, as you well know. Remember back in those days. Right. And so thank God times have changed with him. But anyway, so he said to me, if you want to do it, you'll call Vince. I'm like, well, shit, little turd. I want to do it, but okay. So I call Vince. And I have to leave a message. My call is not taken. And I have someone named Pat Patterson call me back. And he listens to my pitch and he goes, well, I'd like to thank you for that. And thanks, but no thanks. We would not like to do your idea at this time. So I'm like, cool, I'm a mom. I'm enjoying being a mom. No big deal. I hang up the phone. I think nothing of it. And I go back to, folding laundry, changing diapers, and enjoying being a mom and a wife. And so it was Christmas time. I was at my grandparents' house. Dustin was on the road. He called me. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, I'm in the living room with my gran. What are you doing? He said, "Pack your bags. They want to do your idea." So then my whole thing was, because I had her I knew exactly what I wanted her to be. And so I just said, either I want her to have a glass of wine or a cigar. Marlena, they gave me a list of names, and I'm like, no, this is the one. My two were either Oscar or Marlena. Either one kind of made me think of, the whole gender ambiguous, thing. And so, was it you who actually ended up choosing? Because I said either Oscar or Marlena. Who chose?
God, I honestly don't remember. Listen, I'll take credit for it right now. I think it was me. No,
right.
I honestly
think it was
don't
me.
remember. I honestly don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, I pushed for Marlena, but Oscar was my second. But of course, Vince had to say yes to it, or none of it would have happened. But remember this. I don't know if you remember this or not, but in the very beginning, he said no to the glass of wine, which very smart, broken glass, whatever, drink it, whatever. He would not let me light my damn cigars for like the first month. So I go out there with a stupid dry cigar, no smoke, no nothing. And I was like, "Vince, this is stupid." And I kept begging him, "Vince, please let me light." Finally, Pat Patterson's the one that sat there and said, "Vince, she's right. It looks stupid."
Yeah.
And so, of course, Pat with a cigarette in his mouth,
right,
it looks stupid. And so, and I'll never forget, and I don't believe in using the Lord's name in vain, but Vince said, "All right, gosh damn it." He didn't say gosh. "You can light it right before you go out, and I don't want to smell that shit." Okay. So, I finally got to light my cigars, and I got to be Marlena.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, Terri, because you just don't get to be Marlena. Now, listen, we've gone through the background. You're not a trained actress. You got the part, at WCW, which right place, right time. You're an attractive
Pretty
girl.
Much.
There's some available. But now, this character comes to life through you. I mean, here's where I come in, and I worked with you, and you are Marlena. Honestly, I'm asking you as a total mark, without having any acting experience or acting chops. How do you become this other person without having been professionally trained to do that?
Well, I thought I sucked. I didn't think I was very good at it. I really didn't. I mean, I thought in my mind, she was this very boss. I mean, I guess, you know what, maybe what helped me was the fact that I came up with a character. Mm-hmm. The fact that when I created her in my mind, I knew who she was, therefore I could be her. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know.
Because I have to tell you, listen, it's not because you're here. The two characters that just the personalities, fitting, the actors fitting the characters. So I don't know if there was anybody ever better than you and Dustin that I've ever worked with. And I mean, I'm not saying that because you're here. These were 100% straight characters. Nothing about you was Marlena. Nothing about Dustin was Goldust. This was 100% acting. You guys went out there and you became these characters, and nobody else in the world, could have ever pulled this off.
Wait, and add to that, Dustin is 6'5", freaking tobacco spitting, chewing Texan, listening to Hank and Willie, and he has to go and make this androgynous being that looked, like what was David Bowie's character that looked like a jacked up version?
Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, that looked like a jacked up version of him come to life. How do you take this dude that wears Lucchese boots and Wrangler jeans and make him this? I tell you, I give Dustin so much credit for that. It is freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Now let me ask you, first of all, let me ask you this one question first. Is working side by side with your husband in the same industry, night in, night out, on the road, television, house shows, pay-per-views, et cetera, when all is said and done and you look back now, is that a blessing or a curse?
I think it's a blessing. And I'll tell you why. Unless you know what we go through on the road, you can't have empathy. You can't share. You can't talk shop. You can't. There's nobody that, whether it be man or wife, that can be on the road and do what we do and come home to someone and try to express and explain and kind of decompress by a bit of regurgitation, of what's gone on, or kind of reliving it and spitting it out again. Nobody understands. You have to be a part of this crazy circus in order to understand the circus,
Are there a lot of fights though as husband and wife in the business? I mean, is there jealousy issues, or is it really are you really more tight?
For Dustin and I, the business was not ever any of our issue. And I'm proud about that. I'm happy about that. Our issues were more, and he's written about this, therefore I feel okay to speak about it. If not, I would not ever betray him by speaking about it. But our issues and our problems were more substance abuse than the business, and his immaturity and when I said earlier about letting the boys know where his goat was tied. My mom taught me a long time ago, never let anyone know where your goat's tied, because they'll get your goat every time. Very true. And our business, how it is, how we play hard. And so I think a lot of it was Dustin trying to grow up and follow his father's footsteps, who's a legend, who's amazing, trying to find out who he is, who's this character. He's now a new father. He's a new husband. Those were our issues. The business was not our issues. The business, I think, was a blessing for us as husband and wife, because again, so often too, when we would get off the road, we could just be husband and wife and be with Dakota, because we had already decompressed on the drive to the airport from this city to that city or whatever.
Now, Terri, let me ask you this: when you talk about the substance abuse, I mean, I know Dustin's history, but are you talking about substance abuse just on his part or on both your parts?
Here's what's crazy. I never had an issue with drinking at all in the business. Usually this business will eat at your weaknesses and prey upon you. And if you've got a weak link, it'll get in there and rip you up, right? We've seen it happen to countless people. I am in the business for so many years. I get out of the business, no issues whatsoever. It was not until years later that I decided, I think my drinking one glass of wine with dinner went to drinking one glass of wine while making dinner, drinking one glass of wine after. That's when my issue, and I went, I'm doing this way too much. So at the time, it was one-sided back then. It was me begging him to go to rehab to save our marriage. That was what it was back then.
So Terri, was it really, what was it really the stresses he was going through, in the business? I mean, what was it that led to it? And here's the thing too. I got this question. It seems to me like that wouldn't be an easy thing for him to do with
What
his
wouldn't
wife
be?
by his side all the time.
What wouldn't be an easy thing for him to do?
Drinking.
Oh, well, it was drinking, it was pills, and it was all kinds of stuff. Here, but wait, you forget. When I signed my contract with Vince, I told him I will only do TVs and I will only do pay-per-views. Okay. Hence, my star never got to be as big as it would be. Remember? I would not be on the road. I would not do house shows because I was a mom. Rena Marrow would be on the road for 18 days at a time. God bless her if that was her thing. I couldn't fathom leaving my kid 18 days in a row to follow my stardom. I couldn't do it. So Dustin's got, and remember back then too, we were on the road for a long time. You didn't have 4 days on and 3 days off like you do now. So he could be gone for 10 days away from me, and I don't see anything he's doing because I'm home with Dakota. I fly in for TVs and pay-per-views, and then I fly back home. Right?
Okay. That's yes, and that's great that you that you explained all that. So let me ask you this: so how do you know?
Okay.
Dustin's on the road. Dustin's doing what Dustin's doing on the road. I'm sure when he comes home, to you and his beautiful daughter, he's okay. So how do you learn there's an issue?
So here's some of the things that would happen. My husband at the time would be like the world's sweetest, most wonderful man, or somebody I didn't know. Like, I lived a roller coaster. He would walk through the door after being gone for 12 days, and I would open the door and say, "Hey, honey, how was your trip? I'm so happy to see you." And the first words out of his mouth would be, "Why do you ask so many fucking questions?" Like, first words out of his mouth. So, like, gosh, like, that's not the way you come home. And so that would be kind of like, I would think something is wrong. And then the other thing, the real thing that happened was, Dustin is, and I don't know if he still is or not, but he used to be what I call a bag whore. He loves new luggage, loves it. A new Toomey all the time, loves it. So and we just bought a new house, and so in our new big closet, at his end of the closet, there's this amassing of bags. And so again, I have more time home, so I'm thinking I'll be a good wife. I'll clean up this disaster area that's at his end of the closet. So I'm going through bags and I'm sorting. I'm doing, okay, this is dirty clothes that he's got shoved in here. Okay, this is the white athletic tape that they roll around. Okay, here's a stack of tape this tall. Okay, here's socks. Okay, here's hockey pucks that they would play. Okay, and I'm making stacks so that then I can go through, wash laundry, put stack bags that are clean, whatever. And so now as I'm going through, I'm stacking, there's pill bottles, so I'm stacking over here, and I'm thinking nothing of it, Vince. I was stupid. So now, as I go through, I'm counting more and more and more. And so now I start and I look at the date and at the number and at the refill. And like, I'm going, holy shit. So then I look to see who the doctor is. And I'm thinking, holy shit. So I think I said nothing at that point. I think it was the freaking thing that hit me in the head that said, "You stupid, your husband has a problem." Now I go to get, Dakota used to have like a real sensitive skin, a lot of allergies. So I had to go get a prescription filled for her that was like a topical cream, very expensive, like cream. I go to get it filled, and they charge me full price for it. And I'm like, why isn't insurance covering this? Insurance tells me, oh, because you've maxed out your allotment or what. I'm like, huh? They read me over the phone everything that has been filled and what it was, and it's horrible, Vince. So wait, now listen. So I realized that there's this one freaking doctor, and I shall not call his name. So I am once again at my grandparents' home. I'm sitting on their front porch on the swing, and I realize I have to do something. What am I going to do? I call the doctor. I knew that I was going to keep my cool. I knew that I was going to be intelligent, respectful, and very blunt. And so I said, Dr. So-and-so, you know that my husband has a problem because you are prescribing him ridiculous numbers of drugs. He immediately blamed it on Dustin stealing his pad. I found out that no, indeed, it was not Dustin stealing his pad. So I said, I don't care what you do for any patient in the world. I don't care what you do for them. If you so much as prescribe my husband a Band-Aid, I will have your license yanked. End of story. That's it. Thank you and goodbye. Now, I think that it's private. It's between me and Dustin and this doctor. And the next thing I know, I have Bruce Pritchard calling me and telling me that Vince wants to speak with me. And I digress. Vince wanted to speak to me over a Lisa Wolf thing. Go back. Bruce is on the phone. I said to Bruce, get Vince on the phone. I'm not having this discussion without Vince. He gets Vince on the phone. Now it's Vince and Bruce and I. And I said, I'm going to tell you verbatim what I said to this doctor. Here's what had happened. They called me saying, this doctor has called us saying that you're trying to get drugs from him, saying that you've called him, you've used a racial term, you've called him an ugly name that starts with the N word, that starts with an N, the N word. You've done all this stuff. Well, the guy, I guess, got freaked out. He called the office. He ratted himself out to try and save his bones, when had he just done what I'd asked, leave my husband alone, right? Nothing would have ever come of it. But he calls the office, lies about me, and says, I'm trying to do all this stuff. And I called and I cursed him out and I said all this stuff, which I didn't do. So I just said.
I'm still missing the connection of why is the guy calling the office?
He was scared to death that I was going to call the office. And
right.
I was, because I had called him.
Well, then, but then that would have probably meant that this doctor was dealing with more wrestlers than just Dustin.
I don't know, and I don't care. The point is, I did something between us,
right?
And he freaked out, and I guess thought, let me save my skin. I think he was one of those guys that like to hang out with, he wants to hang out with people. He wants to, be your friend. And so that's the kind of guy he was. I'm not going to get into all that because I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. I'm going to get into what I know. And that is Vince is on the phone now with me and Bruce. And I said, you got two things here. You can either believe him or you can believe me. I'm going to tell you exactly what I said to him. Then it's up to you. You make your decision. You make your choice. That's it. Obviously, Vince believed me. All's well. I think I go to TV. Well, no, all is not well. Now I get the cold shoulder from some people. And it was just a bunch of malarkey. Long story short, this guy ended up going to prison. Not even for that. I think he went to prison for having someone out under sedation and groping them. I don't know. I don't remember. Allegedly. No, he actually went to prison for it, I think. I'm sure. But the thing is, to tie this up, and I want to move away from this because this is the negative, ugly past. He sent me, of all things, a Thanksgiving card. Have you ever seen a Hallmark Thanksgiving card? Not that many of them. They don't make them. Very few, very skinny aisle when it comes to Thanksgiving. He sent me a card at Thanksgiving apologizing to me and thanking me. Last time I ever had anything to do with him, ever heard from him, whatever. I hope he's well. I don't know. But anyway, so that was how I learned that my husband had a problem. And then that's when I went about trying to get my husband help. And then I realized, oh, dear God, this is why sometimes he is precious and wonderful. And then sometimes he is just this bear, this person I don't even know.
Hey, Terri, you know what you know what problem I always used to have in the business, and I want to see if you know, you dealt with this with Dustin. And the reason I'm asking is because I'd love to hear how you dealt with it, because I never knew how to deal with it. Okay. A lot of times, Terri, when I was working and, you know, I had to tell everybody, you know, who was doing what. Okay. There were times when I felt certain guys were under the influence of something. Okay. And now here's where I was always in a rough spot. Number one, because I had never, ever taken drugs in my life. So like I wouldn't honestly know how a person would be acting, or, you know, I wouldn't know. I had no experience with it, but I would be able to tell that the person was out of it. Okay.
Right.
So immediately when I'm feeling that, you know, my concern is for their well-being and the well-being of who they're working with that night.
Right.
That's what I'm concerned about. But now, Terri, here's the thing. I would approach it in such a, you know, careful way, like, you know, the old, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? That kind of way. But what used to happen 100% of the time is, you know, absolutely in denial. They're absolutely 100% okay. So now at that point, it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to stand here and call this person a liar? Which I can't do that because I'm not 100% positive. That's when I would go to one of the boys, you know, one of the agents, you know, who had experienced this before, and say, will you please go to so-and-so and tell me what you think? But here's the situation I always dealt with this. They were always in denial. They always denied it, no matter what, always denied it. So you could never help them, and you blatantly have to call them a liar to their face. Did you go through that denial stage with Dustin, or did he just open up and come clean to you right away?
No, but let me tell you something. Dustin was, for all that he was going through and all that he did, at least when I was with him at TVs and pay-per-views, he went to the ring in good condition. Mm-hmm. Dustin was not out there in bad condition. Mm-hmm. You might have seen something differently. I didn't.
No. I'm not talking about Dustin. I'm talking about other people that I work with. I'm talking about, like, you know, now, like, not so much that, because I believe that I never saw Dustin not at the top of the game.
He was very professional and did his, I mean, I'm proud of him for that.
Yeah, but no, I'm talking about, like, when he would come back from the road and you would see this, you know, why you always asking me questions, and you would see that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I finally learned, you know, the dumb wife that, excuse me, I just thought I was a pain in the ass, which I'm sure I am. I just thought, you know, geez, he must have had a really bad time. But then I learned, excuse me, it was not when he would have it that he was a bear. It was when he didn't have it that he was a bear. And so it came to the point where, like, he went to rehab, and then I made a deal with him. You know, he said, you and Dakota are more important to me than, you know, all this bullshit. And I said, great. I said, so here's the deal we'll make. If I ever suspect you of doing it again, you will go and do a piss test without question. You'll just go do it in honor of and to preserve our family. Deal? Okay, deal. I love you. I love Dakota, right? So I'm feeling good. I'm thinking we got this. We're going to make it. And, you know, I remember when I called him out and just said, Dust, I have a real bad feeling, and I need you to go and do a test. and he went berserk on me. And I knew, of course, I knew. And, when we finally divorced, it's crazy because the final thing that made me say, okay, I cannot do this anymore, I don't even remember. I don't even, it was like one of those straw that broke the camel's back situations. I don't even remember. And I finally said, I can't anymore. And let me tell this, because I don't think I've ever said this, and I don't want to, I feel like I'm putting Dustin down, and I don't want to.
Terri, I was just about to say, listen, let me say, because you're not putting him down, because I really want people to understand this, to get a better understanding of the wrestling business. Dustin is about, listen, I don't know if I've ever met more stand-up guys than Dustin Rhodes. Honestly, he is a stand-up guy, man,
big heart, huge heart. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a story about you two that you don't even think you don't even remember. But one of the most stand-up good guys in the business I've ever been associated with. No, hands down, no doubt about it. When you're telling me this story, Terri, what I'm thinking of more than anything, obviously I'm not Dustin, so I don't know what happened when he was on the road, but just listening to this, it appeared to me he was a lot more comfortable with you when you guys were together. And maybe when he went out on the road and Terri wasn't there, maybe that's what had the effect. Listen, Dustin was younger than you, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you've said many times during the course of this interview, he was a big kid, and you are very, very mature for your age. So now all of a sudden, that big kid goes on the road by himself, and the mature one in the relationship isn't there for him. A lot of that makes sense of how something like that could happen, because it had nothing to do with his character. I mean, Dustin Rhodes has you'd want your son to have that character, for crying out loud.
He's a great guy, and I want to end this by saying, in that part of it, by saying, like, just the whole divorce thing. We got divorced October 12th, 99. And I remember going to the courthouse that day. I bought a bottle of champagne thinking, finally, I am done with this craziness. I'm done with it, finally. And Dustin didn't show up at the courthouse that day. So I was there by myself. And literally, I walked to my car, and tears, I cried so hard. It hit me so hard that my family was broken. My daughter was now the product of a broken home. I could no more pop that champagne and drink that champagne and have it was the most horrible, sad, low feeling I had that night. Did I question myself? Did I do the right thing or not? I knew that I did the right thing. I knew that I had to get out of that. But oh my God, it was so. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Now, Terri, I want to get to like a real important issue with you, but I want to button this up, and I want to just ask you a couple more questions. Now, you divorced right around the same time I left to go to WCW. I didn't even know that. But Terri, now you both continued to work there after the divorce? For
a while.
How was that?
He would, one day he would be, Terri, let's get back together. Terri, I'm sorry. The next day, call me names and yell at me and fuss at me. And, it was not good for him, and it certainly wasn't good for me. And I think finally they, I don't know. I think honestly, it was kind of like he decided he didn't want to be there anymore. They were starting to push me and, push me separately. And, so I think that he just decided, I don't even know. He'll have to tell that story of how he left.
Now, Terri, let me ask you this, because I want to get to a big issue with you, and I think you're the perfect woman to have this conversation with. But now you leave there in 2004. You asked for your release?
No.
Okay.
They call me, they they fly me up, and I think that because I'm to have a meeting with Kevin Dunn and John Laurinaitis. And at the time, I had finished doing Excess, and I loved hosting. Loved hosting. So I'm thinking and Vince and I had talked about doing another TV show based on the article that I used to write in Raw Magazine, Raw Sex. So we were going to do like an interview type TV show called Raw Sex. So I'm thinking that's what this meeting is about. I'm so excited. Get up there, and it's Stephanie was it's interesting. Stephanie had almost a pleasant happiness on her face, which I'm still not sure that didn't have a whole lot to do with it. Question mark. But I don't know. It was almost like the cat that swallowed the canary kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was sitting in the makeup room, waiting for the meeting, and I go in there and I'm just happy as a pig in poop. And they're like, "We love you. But we're going to take a break for a while." And I'm like, huh? And I'm like, I remember saying, I thought we were doing this show. And they're like, no, we're not doing that show. And for right now, we're not doing anything. And that's not to say that we're not going to bring you back. It's just right now, we're not going to do that. And, it's funny. I'm like, why did you fly me up? Why did you, it was this whole big to do and production about this meeting and everything. I'm like, why don't you fly me up here and all this stuff? And they're like, because we respect you, and we could have done it like we do a lot of other people and faxed it or FedExed it or picked up the phone. And I remember thinking, well, that didn't help at all to fly me up here. That did not help me at all. And the funny thing was, guess what day it was on?
What's that?
April Fool's.
So you're thinking this is an April Fool's?
I kid you not. Like I said, come on, guys. Are you sure? Come on. Are you sure? Yeah.
So you don't.
We decided to take a break, and we've taken a long break.
So I mean, do you have your suspicions? Do you?
Yeah.
Do you care to share those? Or?
I just did. I always got along great with Vince. Vince and I never had an issue. I had one weird thing happen with Stephanie where, my personality. You know how I am. Yeah. I'm personable. I speak to people. That's just who I am. And I'll never forget one day at TV, she called me aside and she goes, why are you talking to my boyfriend?
Oh my.
And I said, who's your boyfriend? I guess it was someone that she dated before Paul. It was not Paul. This was before Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know who it is, or do you know what I'm talking about, or no?
I have no idea, but just that is just like, give me a freaking break. What was this, high school?
Well, yeah, but I remember thinking, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was at the Staple. I believe we were in LA. I think I could be wrong. But how when you're in some buildings, a lot more people from that town, come out of the woodwork. In fact, I'm almost positive it was LA. And so, okay, if it was LA, we always have a lot of people come backstage in LA. They want to hang out, shoot the shit with the boys, and we love shooting the shit with stars and everything else, right? So I just remember going down the hallway from the dressing room and speaking to people and talking and saying, and I said to her, I said, well, what did I say to him? I said, I don't even know who your boyfriend is. Who is he? And she goes, you asked him who he was. And, she said, why did you ask him who he was? And I said, Stephanie, I don't know. I guess I was just being polite and speaking to people. It's kind of like guests that come into your home. You're polite, you're welcoming. I don't know. I don't even know who the guy is. And so from that moment, she had me at arm's length. And I always felt I never felt weird with Vince. I always felt weird with her. Mm-hmm. And it was years later that I'd bought a business, and it was called Soccer Tots, and I invested in it, and I wanted to do a sponsorship. I wanted WWE to sponsor it, thinking this is great because it's advocating children very young, getting into sports, being athletic, being healthy, being smart, being wise, all the things that are good. And I called, and Stephanie called me, and this is what she said to me. She goes, we'll help you out a little bit, but honestly, Terri, why don't you do something you're good at? Like, why don't you just go back to doing makeup? Like, that's what you're good at. Why do you try to do things that you don't know how to do? And I remember thinking, you don't like me, little girl. You don't like me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and the sad thing is, it's like, I never had anything but happy, good feelings. And I mean, I still feel like that's family. I still feel like I've got massive numbers of people. I mean, I went in, and I guess this will probably piss her off. When they were in Tampa a year or so ago, I went in and spoke to Paul. And I mean, it was great to say hello to the boys and, just see everyone and say hello to everyone, and how things have changed. But yeah, I mean, I wish I knew.
Hey, Terri, why are we getting so dark over there by you? Can you put a light on or something?
I can, because I was sitting and watching the sun go down. Let me see if you're killing me over here.
Ah, there we go. Terri, we got to get into a serious conversation here.
Okay.
And you're the perfect person.
Wait, my ears are being pulled out. Hold on. Okay.
Okay, because I'm concerned about this, Terri.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
I think you'll understand.
This is not flattering. Hold on. Oh my gosh, you're making me look even older than I am, Vince. This is terrible. Dang it.
See what I'm dealing with? I dealt with this for
I would like to see your friend after this interview.
Look, see?
All right, I'm good.
Are you ready? Good.
I'm ready.
Okay, Terri, let me talk to you about this. I want you to talk to me about this.
Okay.
Because I've read a couple of interviews, where you've referred to yourself like as one of the original divas. And you know what? You were, but I never looked at you that way because, you and while I was there, you and Dustin were a tandem. You had Sable, you had Sunny, you had beautiful Marlena, but it wasn't a diva thing to me. So I never looked at you that way. But when you make that statement, you're absolutely right. Now,
well, that was when they started calling us divas.
Right. But here's what I want to discuss with you, because I think you're the perfect person to discuss this with, because I'm really concerned about this. Okay. Now, I've always been an advocate for women in wrestling. And I've always gotten myself in trouble because I've always said that the wrestling business is a very sexist business. I do not like it that way. Women are second-class citizens. They've been treated that way from day one. I do not like that. I think the women on a wrestling show are just as valuable as the men on a wrestling show. And I don't care who hates me for saying that. I've worked with enough women professionals in my life to know that is the absolute truth. So that's where I stand on women in the business. Now, okay. I still, to this day, Terri, I still have a very close relationship with China. And it's very, very, very difficult, Terri, because after all these years, she's really still struggling. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And what makes it more difficult than anything is she's in Japan by herself. The only time I can converse with her is through Skype. It's very, very, very difficult. It breaks my freaking heart. Okay?
Why is she in Japan?
Because things got so hard on her here with everything that happened. She literally left a apartment with all her belongings, everything she owned, bought a one-way ticket to Japan without knowing a soul, and has been there for 3 years and hasn't come back.
Holy Kathmandu. That's wild. That's extreme.
Here's my point. I've done a lot of research on this, and this is what concerns me. I want to see how you feel about this.
Okay.
Now, Terri, you and I both know, even look at Dustin now, because Dustin's getting up there in age. A guy in the WWE, I mean, you can still compete on a weekly basis, when you're 40, maybe 42 years old. From 42 to 50, you can still compete independently if you really need to. You do what you have to do to work the independent show and get your paycheck. But, up until the age of 50, you can still get in that ring and make a living, right?
Right. Yeah.
Are you with me?
I'm with you.
I've been doing a lot of research now, and I'm finding that the average table shelf for a woman in wrestling is like 30, 31 years old. Once they hit 30, it looks like that's the magic number, and the percentage of the girls go bye-bye. Now, you had a good long run. I'm not going to say how old you were when it lasted.
I was 30, 37.
Yeah, you were 37, 38, but Terri, you're not the model that we're talking about here. You're not that diva. You're intelligent. You go in there with a game plan. You know how to carry yourself. You're not goo goo gaga, over the boys and the wrestling business. You're a businesswoman. That's the way that you handle yourself. You are hosting shows. So you got the longevity in the business because of who you were. A lot of the girls are, well, it's the truth, but a lot of these girls are honest to goodness divas, and there's nothing wrong with that. They look good, beautiful women, beautiful bodies. But let's face it, if that's your meal ticket, when you hit 3-0, they're going to move on to the 2-2. Fact, end of story. This is what I'm concerned about now, Terri. I want to see if you agree with me, totally disagree with me, or what.
Okay.
You've got this diva, total divas now, which you didn't have this show when you were around in the WWE. Okay. What concerns me is you have the girls doubling up now. You have them on Raw, and you have them on this Total Diva show, which, by the way, is a better show than Monday Night Raw. I'll watch Total Divas over Raw any night of the week. I'll be honest with you. But now you have these girls. You have these girls, Terri, 22 years old, 24 years old, 25 years old, that now are achieving all this success and all this money in this wrestling business with all this exposure. Okay? Now, Terri, if we look at the history of the WWE, as these girls get older and they're hitting their high 20s and they hit the magic 3-0 and go even a little above that, that the writing's on the wall, and it's out the door with the old and in the door with the new. Look at how they've done business over the years. This isn't Vince Russo making anything up. It's all documented. Now, the first thing that's going to happen, Terri, is for business reasons, they're going to take these girls' names away, just like they did China. China can't go out and be China. I'm sure you can't go out and be Marlena. And listen, that's nothing against the WWE. That's strictly business.
Right.
Okay. But my concern is Terri, you're going to have these girls now at the prime of their lives, 30, 31, 32 years old. They're no longer going to be working for the WWE. They're not going to be able to use their names that they used at the WWE. And by the age of 30, they've already experienced the greatest success that they're ever going to experience in the wrestling business.
So you're worried for them? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'm worried for these girls, because now what happens at 30 years old when you've accomplished all this, because of your age, you're kind of on the outside looking in. You're never going to achieve that kind of success again. I'm just how are these young girls going to be able to deal with that?
You'll never achieve that kind of success again in this business. You can't say that they're, washed up in life. There are other options, but you know what? Take them. I differ from you, and probably the wrath of every feminist is going to come down on me, but I don't like a bunch of women in wrestling. I don't like it to be predominant and prevailing. I don't like it. I like it to be, you've heard me say it before, take a piece of cake. You've got the cake and you got the icing. I think the women are the icing. If you put too much icing on a cake and you go to eat it, it's too sweet. It's too much. If you have just the right amount of icing, it's perfect. It's the most divine, decadent, beautiful thing. That's what wrestling should be to me, as far as women and men, the ratio. That's the way I see it. I'm sorry. And I don't watch the product that much, which, it makes me sad sometimes, because, people will talk about, oh yeah, do you know what's going on with this or that? And I really don't. Occasionally I'll watch if Dustin's going to do something, if Dakota tells me, and, I get to see that, but otherwise I don't watch. But cherish the moments, appreciate what you've been given. You have the opportunity to do something that so few people will ever get a chance to do. Cherish it, invest, save, and get ready for your future. That's what I can say.
Like Terry, when you, when that meeting happened in 2004.
Keep talking. I've got to get liquids. Keep talking. You'll go with me.
Okay. When this meeting took place in 2004, which caught you by surprise, April Fool's Day.
Yeah. Happy April Fools.
At that point, like, what do you decide you're going to do? Like, what's going through your mind? Are you looking to stay in the business? Do you know what road you're going to go down at that point? And the reason why I'm asking you these questions is because I think you'll be able to help a lot of women who find themselves in that situation at one point in time.
Yeah, I think that there were a couple of shows, like network shows that I was going to do. I had an agent. My agent was I was with William Morris, which that's a freaking other story, how I got screwed out of that because of the whole you remember the whole Endeavor and William Morris?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Oh my God. Well, I got screwed out of that situation. Anyway, so because my agent out there felt so bad for me of what happened to me regarding that, he just said, let me help you. And so there were several things, and I was like really hopeful, and there were a couple of things that looked like they were going to happen. But I would say strike while the iron's hot. Your looks fade, smarts don't. Learn as much as you can while you can. Be as nice to everyone as you can. And here's one thing that if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would so do. And that is, even though, and you can attest to this, I am very much a producer. Naturally, I just am. So many of those things that we would go on, you would end up having to go, look, bitch, I'm producing this. Sit your ass down. I've got the reins on this one. But I would love to go back and learn the ropes and learn what it would. Even while I was doing it, I would love to have become a producer, and learn all the ins and outs of production. That would be something that could carry you through.
Do you know? I don't know if you know this story, and I've told this story several times. Do you know that you and Dustin did the nicest thing for me that anybody's ever done for me in 23 years in the wrestling business? Do you know what I'm talking about?
What?
You come on, you don't really
The
don't
briefcase?
remember
The
the what?
briefcase? The briefcase?
What briefcase?
Oh
No,
my God, the
no, not that.
$400 briefcase I freaking
No,
bought you.
it was better than that. It was
What did
better
we
than the
do?
briefcase.
No, what?
I'll never forget this. I tell this story all the time. Do you remember when we did Letterman?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember? I'll never forget this. I get on the plane for Letterman, and you and Dustin are sitting in first class.
Yeah.
Do you remember this now?
Yeah.
I go back and sit in coach. I never, ever sat in first class in my life. Still haven't to this day. Still don't. The stewardess comes back and gets me and brings me in first class to sit with you guys because you guys paid for a ticket to bring me up in first class. Do you remember that?
Heck yes.
You know
But
what?
that can't be the nicest thing that anyone's
The
ever done for you.
nicest thing I never forgot. And you know what the funny part of that story is? I don't even know if you know this part.
What?
I'm sitting in first class now, and the lady keeps coming up to me, would you like a drink, sir? Would you like a drink, sir? Would you like a drink, sir? And I kept saying, no, 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 no. Right? Finally, Dustin turned around to me and he goes, Vince, why don't you get it? Yeah. He goes, why don't you get a drink? I'm like, bro, I ain't paying $5 for a drink. And he just freaking went hysterical and said, bro, you don't pay for drinks in first class.
Yeah. Right,
I had no idea, but I never, ever forgot you guys doing that for me. That was the nicest thing that anybody's ever done for me.
Well, you're welcome, but let me just tell you something. The briefcase was even nicer because I don't know if you remember. $400. Here's what's funny. You carried around, and at the time, remember, you were it was kayfabe that you were the writer that you were.
Yeah, it's still kayfabe. Vince still doesn't know I was writing Journey Attitude.
Right. And so you were, but I felt like you were like my big brother. I really did. It was like you were in and you were part of our family is the way I felt.
It was that way.
So I remember looking at this man-made product, whatever the god-awful plastic thing was, but it was a briefcase that had flaked off whatever plastic black and it was down to like a grayish colored plastic, which was, I'm trying to pretend I'm a legit briefcase and leather, but not. Anyway, I remember saying to Dustin, oh, that is just the most god-awful attaché that he walks around with.
I'm so cheap. I'm still so cheap.
How is he ever going to be looked at with any legitimacy if he's walking around with this dear God?
You know what that reminds me of? You know what that reminds me of, Terry? When I first started writing for the WWE, which I think Vince has forgotten, because on the WWE network, I had nothing to do with anything.
Oh, my Lord.
Do you know at the time I drove a purple, a little purple tiny Jeep. I even forget the name of it. A purple Jeep, but it was small.
Was it Barbie's Jeep before yours or something?
I don't know, but it was small. They don't make them anymore. I can't remember what it was called, but I loved this freaking Jeep. I loved it. When I started working for Vince, he told me in so many words that if I was going to be working for him, that I couldn't be driving that little purple Jeep, and I had to go out and get a car, and it broke my freaking heart because I love the Jeep. But
did you sell it? Did you keep it or sell it?
I traded it in, and I'm still regretting it to this day. Can we share? Listen, can we be honest and maybe share stories that have never been told before?
Sure.
Because there's a story. I don't know if you remember or not, but this is the impact that this story has had on me through the years, because I even remember it took place in Atlantic City. And we had a show in Atlantic City, and there was an overnight. So we were all staying a couple nights over in Atlantic City.
Okay.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Because this has, listen, I got to get this off my chest. This has traumatized me for years.
Okay.
And I never forgot this.
Let's get you free of trauma. Let's go.
Okay. All right. I hope this doesn't make headlines.
I hope that the catharsis is such that you will become a new man afterward. Go ahead.
You've got to be my Oprah now for a minute, because I got to get this out. Okay.
I'm with you.
Well, you and Dustin invite me to your room.
Oh God, that sounds bad.
Yeah. Well, okay. Follow me.
Right.
And you're both like in how do I say, bedroom attire?
I'm in pajamas now.
You're in pajamas. Okay. Now, and it's like you said, Terry, we were like a family. So I never looked at Terri Runnels like, oh my God, look at that. I
was like your sister.
Never.
I was like your sister.
Okay. All right. So like, this is, I don't even know what you were wearing. I don't even know. All I know is, for whatever reason, okay, do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Okay.
Keep talking. The battery's going down. I gotta go get it back. Keep talking. I'm listening.
For whatever, I think you need to be sitting down for this.
All right, hold on. For the love of Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Very traumatic for me now.
Hold on.
I can't have you running around your house.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm not in my house. I'm in my apartment. But hold on. Oh, holy Catmandu.
What are you doing now?
I'm getting the plug-in. So
at this point in the story now, you're interrupting me.
Do you want me to keep talking to you, or do you not? I mean, we've got a choice. All right, hold on. I'm almost plugged in.
Unbelievable what I go through.
Unfreaking believable. That woman, she drives me crazy.
Okay. Oh, you're right now. Okay. So
I'm all yours again.
You invite me up to the room. You're in the sleep attire, right?
The sleep, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I don't know why. I never got the answer to why. But for some reason, Dustin decides that, I don't know how to say this. I'm just going to say this. He decides he's got to show me his manhood.
Oh, Lord.
Now, Terry, not for anything. How long were you married to this man?
8 years.
8 years. Terry, I got to be honest with you. I've never in my life had ever seen like anything like that before or since. And we're talking, Terry, this is 20 years.
And Dustin, and all the while Dustin is dying laughing.
And
Dustin is dying laughing.
That picture has stayed in my mind all these years. I've not been able to share it with anybody. I've not been able to tell anyone. I never saw anything.
You've just told it now.
Terry, I've never, ever seen anything.
What's the question, Vince? Because I'm starting to feel weird. You know, he's remarried to another woman now.
But why?
We have to tread softly here.
Did he have to put me through that? Why did I have to suffer that trauma?
Do you know how often I got asked the question, like, are you okay? Like, are you sure you're okay? Like, are you going to be okay? Do we need to have, medical attention? Are you okay?
Oh my God. All right. Let's move on to a nice.
I hope my daughter doesn't see this, because God love her, she'll vomit. She really will vomit.
Well, I had to tell somebody. Now, listen, I get the impression though, that, listen, Dakota's 21, I think now,
21.
Gorgeous. And she looks just like Dustin. I've seen pictures. It's frightening. It's frightening. But now we got a good happy ending here, because I get the impression you and him parent great, get along good. Dakota's got 2 loving parents. Am I right about that?
All is well. Yes, all is well.
Now, Terry, what are you doing with yourself these days?
I was doing some marketing for a company, and Dakota made me make a promise, and I'm in the midst of trying to fulfill that promise. She said, Mom, whatever you do next, please let it be something that you really love, that you're really passionate about. And I'm kind of torn, because part of me wants to travel and go away. And then the other part of me, our family is so close. My mom, my sister, I have what I call my core, which is me and Dakota, my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my nephew. That's the core. And we are tight. And like part of me thinks, okay, am I, I'm giving up this to go do that. Will I regret it? My mom's now 73. Will I wish I would have not gone? I mean, I'm really I'm soul searching. I'm really soul searching to figure out what I want to do, where I want to go. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken, and I've got to figure out what I want to do in this last part of my life.
And Terri, this is a little personal now, but I mean, I get the impression, I'm not sure, but like, are you riding solo right now?
Yes.
How
for the first time in my life, I am I have been without a relationship, and I plan to stay that way for as long as I won't sacrifice again. I won't do what I've done before, which is make really foolish mistakes.
Terri, I got to ask you about this too, because I was reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when that happened in the WWE in 2004 and you left, did you travel the world at that point?
I did a lot of traveling.
Terri, can I ask your advice on this? And I swear to you, I'm shooting with you. I am not kidding around.
Oh Lord, okay? What?
Terri,
as long as it has nothing to do with Dustin's manhood.
No, now that I got that off my chest, I think I can go on, okay? But Terri, this is an absolute true story. Up until about a month ago, do you know, outside of Canada, I had never left the country.
Vince, I heard that, and I couldn't believe it.
Okay,
I can't even...
Okay, listen to me though. So now, Terri, I'm doing this podcasting on my own now. Listen, I got to make ends meet over here. So I had the opportunity.
Amy's got to eat. The kids got to eat.
Got to eat. I had the opportunity to go about a month ago, and I sucked it up and I went. Now there's a return engagement in like 10 days. Terri, I don't know what it is. I'm scared to death of leaving the country. How can you, like a single woman, just freaking go out? How do you do that?
Wait, you're scared of what though? What's scaring you?
I'm in a foreign place. I can't read the signs. I don't know what people are saying to me. I don't know if I'm gonna eat something that's going to make me sick.
Was it true that you went to England recently? That was where you went?
England,
okay, and you were worried about the signs, that you couldn't read the signs?
Well, Terri, now I'm supposed to go to Germany, right? So the guy today sends me my itinerary, right?
Yeah.
It's all in freaking German. So like I'm looking at this, I'm like, are you freaking crazy? How am I supposed to go there? I can't even read my itinerary.
You can say 9. You can just I just say 9. And when I go to Germany, I just say no to everything. 9, 9, 9, 9.
Oh man, it's
just good.
And you do a lot. I take it you do a lot of this traveling by yourself.
Well, yeah. I mean, ironically enough, I dated a gentleman for a while from Germany, so I was in Germany a lot.
Well, I wish I had your.
I was driving the Autobahn like a bitch.
Oh, see,
that was fun.
I even said to the guy when we were in Germany, I said, if we're on the Autobahn, don't tell me because I don't want to know. And then Terri, the whole thing. Listen, this is a shoot too. The whole thing in England, where the guy's driving on the passenger side and the traffic's going the other way. I'm in the back seat. I'm thinking we're going to have a head-on collision with every freaking car that passes. I was about to have a heart attack.
You need to take like breathing exercises or something. You're getting a little worked up.
Yeah, because now it's 10 days away. Hey, listen, have we covered all the ground here? Is there anything else we didn't cover? I'm sure that when we push stop, that I will think of a million things that I'll be like, oh man, I wanted to say something about that and didn't get to. Well,
but I guess
you got to come on again, because listen, there's my favorite story in the world is the day before the Academy Awards story, which I love telling to everybody. I don't even know if you know the full story.
Tell me your version of it.
Oh my! It will be here for another hour. I mean, we honestly will. I'm going to have you on again.
Let's have a return. Well, this will be part one then.
This will be part one, and then I'd love to talk about the Conan experience. I thought that was great. A lot.
I really don't think he wants to be called Conan. Let's come on now. Be called? Conan. His name is Conan.
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 And then, you know what else I want to talk to you about? We never got to talk about, but. Listen, I always hated this. You guys got the rug pulled out from underneath you when you were the hottest thing going in the WWE. I don't know where it would have went. It was going through the roof. The carpet gets yanked out from under you like that. It always broke my heart. I hated it. I wanted to have a whole discussion about that, but
with Goldust and Marlena, or
the character when everybody started getting cold feet and oh my God. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, I know you guys had a little program with Warrior. I wanted to get your thoughts on him, all that stuff we didn't discuss.
More. Yeah, we got lots more.
Well, maybe we should, maybe talking about Dustin's manhood wasn't like a priority. Maybe we should have left that for another day.
I would like to say, really honestly, like, let's end this the right way. I'm really proud of him. I'm really so freaking proud of him. He did something that, number one, I didn't think that he would have the strength to do. He did it. He has aced it. His body is in better shape than it's ever been in. I'm proud of him. He's the father of my child. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of my child. Let's end on a happy, positive.
Terri, I got to tell you something, and I am not joshing you, pulling my leg. Like a lot of times, I'll go on Twitter during Raw, or I'll write about Raw and all. Terri, I put Dustin over to nauseum, and I say nobody deserves it more than this guy. I know where he was. I know where he is. What a phenomenal story. He needs to tell me how to get in shape, for crying out loud. I want you to know, listen, if it were up to me, he'd be on the show tomorrow, but obviously, with the WWE, it doesn't work that way. But every single day I put him over to nauseum. I want you to know that. And another thing we never talked about, you taught me what a Stradivari was.
A Stradivarius.
Remember?
Yes.
I had no idea what it was. You had to educate me.
Bless your heart.
Then there was the time in California where we had a video shoot, and Dustin decides to climb over the woman's roof, and she had clay shingles, and she hit us with a bill for like $2,000 because the big jooch was up on the roof, breaking every freaking tile up there. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, I so remember that. And do you remember that I made you go out of the room until Dustin had his golden gloved hands covering me before you were allowed to come back in?
Listen to me, Marlena, was that not one of the greatest magazine covers ever in the history? Awesome. I mean, come on, that was a great magazine cover.
We had a lot of fun, Vince Russo.
And what about, I taught you about the coolie?
The coolie, oh my gosh, I never knew what a coolie was.
Well, now you know.
Yeah, but now I know.
It's been a whirlwind. Promise me that you'll come on again, because we got so many other things to talk about.
I'm seeing like part 6 and 7. I'm not lying. I'm seeing like this may be like a catalog in and of itself.
Yeah, because this is very, very therapeutic. I can talk to you, and I could always talk to each other.
I love you, Vince Russo, and let me tell you something. I shouldn't end like this, but I'm going to really quickly. I loved you so much, and I forget exactly what it was. There was something that I went to you with, and it was some angle that you wanted to do, and I was pissed about it. I don't know if it was the D-Lo, the miscarriage, something. You and I got into it, and I remember like you were upset with me, saying that I shouldn't talk to you like that, or I shouldn't. And I'm like, no, because you're my brother, damn it. I just always felt like you were family.
Well, we've always been family. And, I had to kind of chuckle, because I kind of got the impression when I first reached out to you like a couple of months ago, I kind of got the impression that you were like almost like a little reluctant, like what are you going to ask me? What are you going to talk about? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? We're going to sit there. We're going to talk about the size of Dustin's Johnson. We're going to talk about the Stradivari. We're going to
Stradivarius.
Was it not everything we thought it would be?
It was Stradivari wonderful. It was wonderful.
Well, listen, I want to thank you. I want to thank you not only for this interview, for all those years of working with you. You made my job easy. You always put a smile on my face. You were always the class of the class. And I want you to know that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. I had fun with you. Thank you for spending the night with me. Tell Amy I said thanks for letting me steal you for a while.
Oh, no problem. Don't go anywhere yet. I'm going to sign off with these people. Then I'm going to come back. I'm going to
tell these people I said, hola.
Hola. I'm going to stop the broadcast and come back and say a personal hello. But for everybody out there, this was the hey, Terri, just so you know, we're on a new network now called the Realm Network. My podcast is called The Swerve. This was the very first one on the new network. I want you to know that.
Yay. I like being your first.
Well, let's not get panicky. So listen, I want to thank everybody for joining me and the beautiful, lovely, stunning, classy, you name it adjective, Terri Runnels. And we will be back right here next week with a new edition of The Swerve. I'll catch everybody on the rebound. Thanks for joining me. Good day.